I believe if you're gonna have grizzly bears down here, just if they can survive, they survive. If they don't, they don't. But as soon as you start protecting grizzly bears, you teach them really bad habits with regards to people. Hi folks, Tim Sundles here, and my very beautiful wife Kim is filming on her iPhone. One of the videos that CensorTube deleted, it was our most popular gun video we've ever done. It was called Handguns for Defense Against Wild Animals. And we're not sure why they deleted it, so we're going to try and make it YouTube compliant and do it again. We're never sure why they delete these videos. They just say they don't fit community standards, and the community certainly didn't pick the standards. And the video was up for, I don't know, 9 months before they took it down. It had hundreds of thousands of views. So it's an important video, and it's one that I'm going to redo here and see if we can't figure out YouTube's AI. Handguns in the woods for self-defense against wild animals, and I'll add in North America. I'm not going to get into African stuff. That's very hard to do with handguns, period. So this is about North America and the animals that roam these mountains right outside our house, which the most fearsome of any of those is grizzly bear. So I put samples of semi-auto cartridges over here, and I'll talk about them mostly last. And then I put samples of revolver cartridges right here, although I don't have 500 Linebaugh in here. I don't have 475 Linebaugh in here, but I do here. So let's go over to these and talk. I put them in order. I have a gun, at least one gun here for each of these cartridges. I put them in order of the smallest bore diameter first, and then when I get up into some of them that have the same bore diameter, I put the most powerful one last. So for example, 500 JRH here has the same caliber bullet as the 500 Smith & Wesson there. So let's start. 10mm, 220 grain. That's a Buffalo Bore load. 45 ACP plus P, that's a 230 grain full metal jacket flat nose. That works great in the outdoors. Next to those is the 45 Win Mag. Next to the 45 Win Mag is 45 Colt. That's a 325 grain hard cast plus P. Next to it is a 454 Casull. You can see the difference in the brass length. Next to it is a 480 Ruger. Next to it is a 475 Linebaugh. And the thing I want them to see mostly with this, Kim, is just the brass length and the overall length. So probably the more even, there you go. So, and next to it is a 500 JRH, 500 Smith & Wesson, and then the biggest bullet diameter here belongs to the 500 Linebaugh. And so you can see the case length, and you can mostly see the case diameter and therefore get an idea of how much powder they hold. So I'm going to get into the individual guns a little bit. And these are not all of my 500 Linebaughs or 475 Linebaughs or 500 Smith & Wessons, not even. But I set a couple representative samples out here. I wanted some with double action trigger pull, some with single action trigger pull, to give you guys an idea. So let's start with the 500 Linebaugh, which is this guy right here on the end.
Just show that again, please.
This guy right here on the end. The 500 Linebaugh is a true 51 caliber or .510 inch diameter. That's the one I carry the most. In this shoulder holster is an old John Linebaugh made 500, his serial number 2 stainless, that I've carried for decades. The holster is a simply rugged, they call it the Sundles Ready Rig, made by Simply Rugged Holsters. And what I like about this holster is, first of all, in a shoulder holster, the weight is on my shoulders. So if I want to carry a fairly heavy gun, which loaded, this thing is 53 ounces. Empty, it's 47 ounces. And, you know, I've carried it countless miles in the Rocky Mountains, worn it all over the place, and you don't notice the weight in a shoulder holster. If you try to put that weight in a hip holster, it'll be pulling your pants down, especially if you have love handles like I do. So the virtues of this holster is it's split in front. So you don't lift up and out, you just lift out. And it's very fast, and you can see in the back what it's like. You can see the shoulder harnesses. I have had to rebuild this holster in the last 35 years, 40 years. I've had to rebuild the straps in the back. They wear out, and the little Velcro strap that Velcros it to my belt, those will wear out. Okay, 500 Linebaugh. I don't even know how many game animals I've killed with this gun. I did kill an attacking bull moose with it. I'm trying to think if I've killed charging bears with it or not. I've killed bears with it, I know that, hunting. You know, when you've been doing this since your early 20s like I have, I lose track of what I've killed. This gun has seen so many thousands of miles in the mountains. It was John Linebaugh's first stainless 500. And I requested serial number 2 to match my blued number 2. Wonderful, wonderful revolver. I've had people say, well, single action isn't as fast as double action. Oh, yes, it is. You just have to train with what you use. If you want a double action, Hamilton Bowen and maybe Ben Forkin, maybe Ronnie Wells will make you a Red Hawk with a 5-shot cylinder in 500 Linebaugh. This one belonged to Ashley Emerson. I have another one very similar to it that was built by Dave Clements. The lanyard loop isn't there for cool. The lanyard loop is there so that if you need to tie this gun to your belt or to your body in any way, like while you're sleeping at night, no matter how far you get knocked or how hard you get hit, when you come to, you just pull on the string and get the gun in your hands. That's what lanyard loops are for. I don't ever really tend to use them. I'm not that nervous about it. But I do know people have used these. I believe Ashley has actually used the lanyard loop personally when he was in, tight situations. So there's 2 500 Linebaughs, and you're talking about pushing a 440 or 435 grain non-expanding bullet at 1,300 to 1,350 feet a second. Now we go down in bore size to the true 50 caliber, just .500 inch. This one is a 500 Wyoming Freedom Arms Model 83. I put it out here. Freedom Arms is the only company that chambers that cartridge. They designed the cartridge, and it doesn't do anything that the 500 JRH or the 500 Linebaugh will do. But it's designed to fit their narrow ratchet system that they have, their more narrow cylinders. And And the Freedom Arms Model 83s are just such fine guns. You know, they don't weigh much. They're stronger than any Ruger framed custom made gun. Not that that's an issue, because it really isn't, but they're very, very, very nice guns. And Buffalo Bore is going to come out with 500 Wyoming Express here in the next several months. I'm getting geared up for that. I'm so busy these days that everything I plan to do takes longer because I get 100 interruptions. So that, I don't have a 500 Wyoming Express here, but if I did, it would be just the equal of the 500 JRH. That's what it would be, only it has a little belt on it for head spacing. That was Freedom Arms creation. And again, you know, 420 to 440 grain bullets at, you know, 1,300 feet a second. You can run them harder if you want to. I don't see any point in it. You know, 50 feet a second extra or 100 feet a second extra doesn't really matter when you're pushing big non-expanding flat nose bullets. And you guys know why every bullet here is non-expanding. These are all solids because we're talking about defense against what may potentially be, you know, a 1,700 pound moose or a 1,000 pound plus bear. You want penetration. And with a handgun bullet, if you expand it, it's just like opening a parachute. It's going to make a bigger diameter hole, but it's not going to penetrate very deep because these bullets don't have the velocity of a high-powered rifle, nor do they have the sectional density. You know, if you were going to shoot 50 caliber high-powered rifles, like the 500 Jeffrey, you'd push a 435 grain bullet at 2,500 feet a second, not 1,300 feet a second. So the rifles, and by the way, no one makes 425s for the 500 Jeffrey, which is a .510 inch bullet like the 500 Linebaugh. They're too light. They make 570 grain and 535 grain bullets for the 500 Jeffries, the 505 Gibbs, the 500 Nitro Expresses. Those are all high-powered rifle cartridges. You're talking 570 grain bullets, and those are generally running 21 to 2,200 feet a second. And so 100 grains heavier, hundreds of feet a second faster. So that's why you don't want to expand handgun bullets. When you expand them, they don't have the sectional density nor the velocity to penetrate deep enough. And by deep enough, I mean to get through big shoulder bones and plow through the heart, lung area, and then go right on through the neck shoulder and break it too. That's what you need if you're going to try and stop an attacking large grizzly. Well, you'll never get that done with hollow points. Okay. The 500 Smith & Wesson. The big X frames for me are too heavy to carry. I don't like them. The only one I have a use for, and I'm a true outdoorsman. I'm not a, you know, hop out of my truck and stand around my truck and take pictures guy. I'm a get out in the woods and be out in the woods and live out in the woods guy. And so I like portable guns. These things are heavy. And the only one I have any interest in is this little 3.5 inch custom shop one, you know, and they're so powerful. I mean, here's the 500 Smith & Wesson cartridge right there. And you can see how much longer it is than the 500 JRH. The 500 JRH has a 1.4 inch case. The 500 Smith & Wesson has a 1.8 inch case. A lot more powder capacity. I can push 440 grain bullets out of this thing at a little over 1,500 feet a second. It's immensely powerful, you know, and that's with the short barrel. I mean, if I had a longer barrel, you know, 1,700 feet a second isn't out of question. But it's double action. Some people think that's better, but you know, you can't just go, and I can't dry fire this in the house. We're afraid sensor tubes. AI will have a fit over that. So you can't just go click, click, click with a double action when you're shooting something this powerful. Because you go click, the gun goes boom, way back here, and you got to line it up again as it comes forward. The single action's every bit as fast. And I did a demo months ago, and everybody said, oh, that's way too slow. Well, I wasn't trying to shoot fast. I will do a demo shooting a single action 500 Linebaugh with full powered, hard kicking ammo fast. I'll do that in the next few weeks, and we will get it online. The 500 JRH, which is right there. That's the 500 JRH. JRH stands for Jack something Huntington. Jack is a friend of mine. Jack made that cartridge in answer to the 500 Linebaugh, which came out first, because Jack wanted something that would shoot true 50 caliber bullets, just like the 500 Smith & Wesson. And this is a BFR factory gun. Magnum Research makes the BFR, which is biggest, finest revolver. And I'm telling you, when the BFR first came out, biggest revolver was what it stood for, but they took heat from people, so they changed it to biggest, finest revolver. These are tanks. They come with good sights on them that actually adjust. They're very strong, and they're less than half the money, or about half the money of a Freedom Arms. I believe less than half of a Freedom Arms Model 83. Very, very good gun. They make, Magnum Research makes these in 500 Linebaugh and the 500 JRH like this one. And I will tell you, my personal minimum when I'm in the grizzly woods is the 454 Casull. I don't even, and that's just a mental thing up here. I have been the survivor of bear charges. Thank God most of the time I've had a rifle in my hands. I'm sitting here trying to think of all the bears I've shot with these handguns, if one was actually being aggressive or not. I'm having a hard time remembering now, because I've only shot several dozen bears, and you know, it's like you'd say you'd never forget a bear charge. Well, you might be wrong if you just lived it too much and then lived to be 67 years old. My minimum is the 454 Casull with heavy hard cast bullets. We're going to get into that in a minute. As we step down from the 50 caliber stuff, which these were all 50s. There's one over here in semi-autos. We're going to do semi-autos last. We get to the 475s and 480 Ruger. And they're a true .475 inch case. Or bullet diameter, I mean. And they work probably just as good as the 500s. I've shot a lot of animals with the 500, and I'm so happy with how the 500 Linebaugh or the 500 JRH work that I haven't done as much with the 475 Linebaugh. That's a Freedom Arms Model 83 with an octagon barrel. Really a nice revolver. I tend, when I carry a 475, to carry that one the most, just because it's stainless, and I tend to neglect my guns when I'm in the woods. If I get rained on, I don't want to have to wipe and oil a gun down. Another 475 Linebaugh that I have killed things with is a Hamilton Bowen Nimrod. Wonderful, wonderful revolver. I mean, I just, they're built on a Ruger frame. Hamilton does really good work. It is not as strong as the Freedom Arms Model 83, but that's not an issue. You don't load these cartridges to high enough pressure for strength to really matter. And if you were going to shoot thousands and thousands of rounds of full-powered ammo, the Freedom Arm gun would hold up better, but anybody that can do that, I'm suggesting that your hand and your wrist will wear out before any of the guns will, because the recoil is severe. Again, you're pushing 420 to 440 grain bullets at 1,300 to 1,350 feet a second. They are a handful. Let me show you the 475 Linebaugh cartridge. It's right there. And here's the 480 Ruger cartridge. You can see it's a little shorter. Here's a 480 Ruger. I bought this from Tom Ords, who I was told later passed away. He had this custom made probably by Jack Huntington. I don't know. I don't see the maker's name on here or initials. Yes, I do. JRH. That's Jack Huntington. The 480 Ruger is the same bullet diameter as the 475 Linebaugh, shoots the same bullets, just on a shorter case, and you can add enough powder to the case to get it to shoot to 475 Linebaugh ballistics if you want. We don't do that with our factory ammo, but they're not very far behind. I have friends that take this case, this 480 Ruger case, and they have their own bullet molds designed with the crimp groove of the bullet further down. They just seat the bullet out as far as the 475 is, and that gives you, all kinds of case capacity. It still fits in these cylinders. So it's just like with the 45 Colt plus P and the 454. If you want, you can just design a bullet for the 45 Colt that seats further out, and what you get is the same case capacity essentially, because you've got less bullets seated down into the case that holds your gunpowder. Now, like I said, for my minimum in the woods, if I'm in grizzly woods, which is the kind of woods I prefer to be in, is the 454 Casull. This is another Freedom Arms Model 83. They're just so good. And the guns are so stout, you can't wear one out. You just can't. Like I said, your hand, your wrist, your nervous system will give out first. Really, really good guns. They came out in 1983. That's why they're Model 83s. By 86, I had 7 of these. And I was testing every kind of bullet, anything available. I was testing it in these things. I now only have 2 Freedom Arms Model 83s in 454 Casull. This is a standard Ruger Red Hawk 6-shot that Jack Huntington made into a 454 Casull. I like it. It's nice and light. I mean, relative to these guns, it's light and strong. Used it quite a bit. You can, of course, shoot 45 Colt in any 454 Casull chamber. Don't let people tell you you can't. You can. And there's no reason why you can't. You need to clean the guns afterwards to get the 45 Colt case being, let me just show you. Here's the 454 Casull. Here's the 45 Colt. The 45 Colt case is just a little shorter, so you'll get burned powder, carbon. You'll get a ring in front of the case, and then when you go to chamber these 454s, you might have a big carbon ring in the way. Probably won't, but you might. So shoot all the 45 Colt you want in them, but you got to clean the chambers after you do it. 45 Colt. I've got a bunch of 45 Colts. I put one out here. This is a Bowen Nimrod. Really, really a nice gun. I bought this used because Bowen was going out of business. Very strong. You can essentially run 50,000 PSI loads out of it all day long. It's a Ruger frame, so it's not as indestructible as a Freedom Arms revolver. But at 50,000 PSI, you get 95% of the power that the 454 has with full powered loads. So, okay, it's a little less powerful. With a hard cast penetrating bullet, it ain't gonna matter. .44 mag. It's, you know, my entry level for grizzly woods is the 454. A lot of people have 44 mags, 45 Colts. I get it, and I'm not saying they're not viable. They are viable. Another bow and Nimrod. This one's a 6-shot because the 44 mag is a little smaller than the 45 Colt in diameter. So there's more steel in the chamber walls, and you can manage to get a 6-shot revolver instead of like the 45 Colt plus P, you'll get a 5-shot. Really a nice gun. If you want its double action counterpart, Smith & Wesson mountain gun in 44 mag, that gives you a double action. If you prefer double action, a lot of people think that double action is better for defense against wild animals. I don't. I think you need to practice substantially with whatever you choose to carry. Okay, semi-autos. And here we go. We've got 45 ACP plus P. 10, excuse me, that's 10 millimeter. 45 ACP plus P. 45 Win Mag. 50 Action Express. These are both 50 Action Express. And I just put a jacketed hollow point up here just to show you not everything we make is hard cast, but everything we make for bailing your butt out of trouble is hard cast or mono metal or full metal jacket with a flat nose. This would be like, you know, for hunting deer or something. This would be for bailing your butt out of trouble. The Magnum Research 50 AE. This has the aluminum frame. It weighs 49 ounces. It holds 8 rounds of 380 grain, hard cast, flat nose, moving out at 1,400 feet a second, meanness. It'll go through the biggest bear on the planet. People malign the 50 AEs. I'm telling you, the current 50 AEs, and mine are all less than 10 years old, have never jammed. They've never failed to feed. This one's really innovative because they made it light enough to carry with this aluminum frame. They ported it because the recoil would be horrendous if they didn't. I shoot this thing a lot. I really like it. It doesn't recoil much at all with these ports. Very nice gun. Should be considered as viable for stopping anything in North America that needs to be stopped if you have non-expanding ammo in it. The 45 Win Mag. This thing weighs about 3 or 4 ounces more than this 49 ounce BFR. This again is just 45 caliber, you know, 451 bullet diameter. It's like the 45 ACP or the 45 Super, which I don't have a 45 Super here. And I probably should have brought a handgun out. Just shoots 45s, but it's been reworked to shoot 45 Supers as well. These push a 255 grain bullet at 1,400 feet a second. Folks, that's your hottest 44 mag ballistics, only it's 45. It's a very viable choice. These LAR Grizzlies are simply an enlarged 1911. These are very reliable. I own 3 of them. Never had a problem with any of them. You know, as long as they're cleaned and lubed, they're quite reliable. Then we get down to real questionable territory. A Glock 45 ACP with plus P ammo and a Glock 10 millimeter. Okay, I carry these little night lights when I go into the woods. They just pop right off. This is an older Glock light. There's certainly better lights out there now. But you know, I bought a lot of these 20 years ago when you didn't have options. The Glock lights were what you had. They have a laser and a light on them. And what I do is if I'm carrying the gun in a shoulder holster, I take the light off. And then at night before I go to bed, I pop the light on. It's already sighted in. And that way, if things go bump in the night and I need a stinking light, well, it's attached to a gun. And that's always good to have your flashlight attached to a gun. The Glocks, you know, I mean, you're talking 15 rounds. You're talking lightweight. You're talking certainly enough accuracy for any defensive application. Reliability, I mean, they're reliable, you know, and they're $600 without the light. I mean, okay, if your gun gets confiscated or if you lose it or whatever, you're not going to cry crocodile tears over it, where some of these guns here are thousands and thousands of dollars a piece. Folks, for outdoor defense against wild animals, these are the cartridges and the guns. And like I said, I've got more guns. There's nothing wrong with Springfield XDs or Kimbers in 10mm or anything else that is a good, reliable gun. Use it if you want a semi-auto. I just happen to have a buttload of Glocks, so I use them as examples. The woods are a good place to be. We have dangerous animals. People every year in Alaska get stomped to death by moose. People every year get killed by grizzly bears, more and more so in the lower 48, because these damn bears are protected. So people aren't hunting them or shooting them. And so the bears get very, very, very bold around humans. They lose their natural fear of humans. I believe if you're going to have grizzly bears down here, just if they can survive, they survive. If they don't, they don't. But as soon as you start protecting grizzly bears, you teach them really bad habits with regards to people. And I know our fish and wildlife agencies don't give a shit about people. And, you know, I can tell you right now, if I cross a grizzly, I've done this. I've done it in the lower 48 where it's illegal. If I cross a grizzly that is aggressive towards me or other humans, I kill it. I'm not going to teach these bears these bad habits.
And it's called self-defense.
Well, it is called self-defense. And not only that, when they have cubs, they teach that crap to their cubs too. Cubs do exactly. Cubs mimic mom's behavior. And so, folks, we don't need the federal government coming in here unconstitutionally and usurping states' rights. It's not even legal. And I'm of a belief that if they protect it, I'm going to shoot it. I mean, I'm sorry. That's good enough reason right there.
Well, the question becomes, if they protect it, is it even constitutional that they did protect it?
No,
And
it's
if
illegal.
It's not, it's illegal and unconstitutional.
Yeah.
So are you really doing anything wrong?
Well, they will say you are. And another thing about these protected grizzlies, you know, if you shoot one in self-defense, okay, now you've got a certain number of, I think it's 2 days, 3 days, to get somewhere to a fish and game department and notify them.
Incriminate yourself.
Yeah, and that goes completely against the Fifth Amendment. There is no law that is legal that says you have to go self-incriminate. That's what the Fifth Amendment is all about. You hear defendants all the time on a witness stand pleading the Fifth. And so for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to illegally come and tell you you have to go turn yourself in so they can make your life miserable, so they can file charges against you and you'll spend $100,000 plus defending yourself. You don't have to do that squat. Their rules are unconstitutional. I'm telling you right here on camera, on Facebook, unconstitutional, illegal. I don't obey them. And if you want to, that's up to you. I don't. I believe in freedom way too much. I believe in the U.S. Constitution way too much, which protects your freedoms against usurping government, against tyranny. That's what the Constitution is all about. So, folks, I hope this is beneficial. These are the kinds of guns, and in several cases, the very guns I use when I'm in the woods and I feel the need to have a defensive plan against large carnivores or even large herbivores. I'm telling you, moose kill people every year. Moose have a short fuse, and I can never even tell if the damn fuse is lit or not. They're a hard animal to read, a moose is. It's much easier for me to read bears. Folks, God bless. Be safe outdoors. Be a man. Not only protect yourself, protect your wife, your kids, protect any innocent person. Be a man. You know, all this mamby-pamby stuff we've gotten into, nah. Men are protectors. Protect other innocent people. If they're not smart enough to pack a gun and protect themselves, it's going to be left up to somebody that's smart enough and that is man enough to do the job. Folks, we love you. God bless. We'll see you on the next video.